أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على سيدنا وعظيمنا وحبيب قلوبنا أبي القاسم محمد اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد وعلى أهل بيته الطيبين الطاهرين أما بعد قال الله تبارك وتعالى في كتابه الكريم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم إنا أعطيناك الكوثر فصل لربك وانحر إن شانئك هو الأبتر صدق الله العلي العظيم. Assalamu alaikum, brothers and sisters. Welcome to episode 7 of the Sayyids series. And in the last 2 episodes, we discussed in the former the ghira of Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa alihi wasallam over his descendants. And then we discussed the ghira of his descendants upon him sallallahu alayhi wa alihi. And following that theme of ghira, we would like to speak about the surah that I quoted. And that's surah 108 of the Holy Quran. And to repeat it, it's Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Inna a'tainaka al-Kawthar. We have granted you al-Kawthar. Fasalli li rabbika wanhar. So sacrifice to your Lord and to pray to your Lord, and so pray to your Lord and sacrifice. Inna shani'aka huwa al-abtar. Verily it is your enemy who is abtar, who is tailless. Now, what does this mean? So we understand that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is saying in this verse, the first verse of this surah, we have granted you al-Kawthar. So we have granted you something. We know this is something. We're going to get into what this means. This Kawthar, of course, it means something, and we're going to get into its meaning. فَصَلِّ لِرَبِّكَ وَانْحَرْ. So, pray to your Lord and sacrifice. That makes sense as well. Inna shani'aka huwa al-abtar. Your enemy is the one who is tailless, or the one who is cut off. To understand the context of what Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam is being told about Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, Al-Qummi in his tafsir narrates with a chain from Imam al-Sadiq alayhi salam. So he starts by saying, Al-Kawthar is a river in paradise that Allah gave Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam this river in exchange for his son Ibrahim alayhi salam. And then he says he's intending Imam al-Sadiq alayhi salam here, said that Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa entered the mosque, and in it were 2 certain individuals from Quraysh, Fulanun wa Fulan. One of them called and said, "Oh, ya Abal Abtar." Oh, so he called Rasulullah the father of something which is cut off. In the period of ignorance, if a man did not have a son, he was called Abtar. And then that particular Qurashi said, I do not dislike Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa alayhi, but I hate him. Then Allah revealed to his messenger this surah. Surely we have given you al-Kawthar. So pray to your Lord and give sacrifice. Until he's saying, your enemy, meaning your hater, this man from Quraysh, he is abtar, meaning he has no religion and no genealogy. The context is clear, so we understand why this was revealed. Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa alayhi, after the deaths of his sons, was of course feeling sad and aggrieved already by the incidents that had taken place. And some people from Quraysh decided to taunt him, saying, "Oh, you who is cut off." So Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa alayhi, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala revealed to him, it is your enemy who is cut off. So we understand. Then he quotes Imam al-Sadiq alayhi salam. So he implies that this is a river. Although when he says that the enemy of yours has no religion and no genealogy, this implies, so the part where it says no genealogy implies that this Kawthar is referring to something of genealogy, something related to genealogy. What does At-Tabatabai say in his Al-Mizan? Allama Tabatabai in his Al-Mizan mentions that some said Al-Kawthar, or abundance, refers to the fountain of Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa alayhi in paradise, or on the Day of Judgment. Some, so this is what At-Tabatabai is quoting, he says some say that it's his children, some say it's his companions, some say it's his followers. Some say the scholars of the nation, some say that it's the Holy Quran and its many virtues. Other interpretations, the simplification of the Holy Quran, the relaxation of Islamic laws, al-Islam, monotheism, knowledge, wisdom, his merits, Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa alayhi, the lofty station, the light of the heart, his heart. Some sources have even gone to say that there's 26 meanings of this word al-Kawthar. And then he goes on to say, it has been widely reported that the surah was revealed regarding the one who tried to defame him, with being cut short after the death of his two sons Al-Qasim alayhi salam and Abdullah alayhi salam. By that, refuted is what is said in other interpretations, that what is meant by Ashani, or the enemy, with his saying abtar to Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is answering that he's cut off from all goods. So he concludes, the multitude of his progeny is what is meant alone by al-Kawthar, which Allah gave to the Nabi sallallahu alayhi wa alayhi. Or that intended by it is the abundance of goods and the multitude of his progeny. So it's either only al-Kawthar or it's both of them. If not, so it's either only the progeny or it's the progeny along with the abundance of goods. If it does not include the progeny, then the part which says it is your enemy who is cut off would have no purpose and no meaning whatsoever. Al-Shaykh Rida al-Mudaffar in his book Usul al-Fiqh says that, while explaining the context of everything, adds an important detail. And until it goes to the word Kawthar, he goes into the specific meaning of the word Kawthar, the Arabic complexities of the words. He said that the word Kawthar, it is from the verb form or the wazn faw'al, which comes in Arabic to indicate exaggeration in number. So what is intended by Kawthar is an exaggeration in multitude. So al-kathra, the multitude, al-kathra, this implies a greatening in number. Then the meaning would be like this: verily we have granted you a multitude of descendants and lineage. After this context and clarity of the meaning of Kawthar, this would then make sense, but only after contemplation and wisdom. The validity of the tafsir of the word Kawthar will appear through Fatima Zahra salamullah alayha, because of the limitation of his progeny of only being through her, because the word itself is one of her, she is al-Kawthar because the progeny is limited as only being from her, and al-Kawthar is not one of her names. It's not in that sense. Al-Majlisi in his Bihar says about this very same al-Kawthar that it must be taken upon all other sayings regarding these verses, that Allah gave him, Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, an abundance of good in this world and the hereafter. So Allama Majlisi's opinion regarding this verse is a combination of the multitude of good in this world and the hereafter, which includes the progeny. Like Allama Tabatabai mentioned in the previous tafsir, that the verse either means the progeny alone or the progeny is included in the Kawthar. At-Tabrasi in his Majma' mentions this interpretation. He says, it is said that it is the multitude of the descendants of the progeny of Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa alayhi, and the multitude revealed itself through his descendants from the sons of Fatima salamullahi alayha, to the extent that the numbers cannot be accounted for, and their reach continued until the Day of Judgment. Al-Kashani says in his tafsir that surely we have granted you an excessive abundance of goods. It has been explained as knowledge, deeds, prophethoods, the book, honor in both worlds, and by the noble progeny. Al-Sharif al-Murtada says, it has been said that al-Kawthar, verily what is intended by it, the abundance, it's as if he said, verily we granted you abundance of good, and this is more appealing to me so he's saying between a river, between the interpretation that it's just a river and the interpretation that it's an abundance of goods. For him, what is more appealing? That it is an abundance of goods. These words are to be taken to be the highest degree of eloquence, for verily the phrasing of abundance, al-kathir, with the verb form al-Kawthar or faw'al, is from strong eloquence in the Arabic language. The way the verse linguistically presents itself and the way the verses interpret each other clearly reveals that the progeny of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam is either wholly intended by al-Kawthar or that they are an essential part of the Kawthar. The linguistic sense proves that it is the progeny of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and from the standpoint of traditions, a river in Jannah. And there are different ahadith explaining this abundance in different ways. However, none of them contradict each other, in the sense that these traditions can be reconciled, that on various occasions different aspects of this Kawthar were specified. The linguistic meaning of the verse is apparent. To this, there is a narration of Imam al-Baqir alayhi salam, where he says, it's narrated from Jabir ibn Yazid, who says, I asked Abu Ja'far about something, so it's speaking about Imam al-Baqir alayhi salam. I asked him about something from the tafsir, so he answered me. Then I asked him about it for a second time, so he answered me with another answer. So I said, may I be sacrificed for you? You had answered me with regards to this question with an answer other than this before today. So the Imam said, O Jabir, for the Quran there is an esoteric meaning. There is a esoteric meaning, implying a hidden meaning. And for the esoteric meaning, there is another esoteric meaning. And for it, there is the apparent meaning for the apparent meaning. So we see that the Holy Quran has many layers of meanings which are with the Ahlul Bayt alayhim salam. So if all of these things are presented to Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa alayhi together, it would be as if, to give you a good example, a husband who somehow upsets his wife by shouting at her, and I do not encourage this. He shouts at his wife and he wants to make his wife happy. So what does he do? He goes and he buys flowers and chocolates and cards and soft toys and lots of other things. Why is he buying all this? So he can make her as happy as possible. Now, in order to change her moods, if the actual issue that she's complaining about is not addressed, then these things are all superficial and they have no meaning, because at the end of the day, it may give her certain relief for certain periods, but the objection that she has is still unaddressed. This example is accompanied by compassionate body language and comforting words. There is no dispute that Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa alayhi is the most beloved of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and Allah loves his messenger sallallahu alayhi wa alayhi. The Prophet sallallahu alayhi wa sallam was hurt by some of the words of Quraysh. Yes, as we mentioned in previous episodes, the infallibles also feel pain. Feelings like hunger, thirst, insult, social exclusion, and the like. This is evident from the words of Allah where he says, it is your enemy who is cut off, as if he was comforting his Prophet sallallahu alayhi wa alayhi by saying that the one who is cut off is the one who attacked you verbally, and not the Prophet sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. Returning to the points, Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa alayhi is the loved one in this case, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is the lover. It is not far-fetched that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala would give his prophets many gifts at once. It is not inconceivable that the Kawthar has a reality in this world and the next, as offered by al-Majlisi. We have already mentioned that a man feels ghira with relating to when speaking about matters related to his children or over his children completely. Arabs were socially programmed to believe that a successful individual is he who has a fruitful progeny, and the one who doesn't have a social progeny is a failure. Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam lives in the fabric of that society. Just like Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala responded with a rule to prevent anybody from marrying the wives of Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam after his leaving this world, here Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is defending the ghayra of Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. Again, this should not come as a surprise, taking into consideration that Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam has the highest station with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, which no creation can ever reach. When something is acquired after pain, the obtaining of the item becomes beloved to the seeker who sought after it. This is a natural concept. A man who picks up money in the street will not feel that joy in spending it as much as the person who worked hard for that money. In a similar sense, if a fertile lady gives birth to a child, she would be happy, and there's no doubt about this. However, if a man is taunted for not being able to have a child, or a woman is taunted for not having a child rather, then naturally this would be more rewarding to that person. If a man feels insulted, he has ghira, the man has ghira. He has ghira over the fact that he doesn't have children. He feels this because it's a part of manlyhood. It's considered a man is considered incomplete in society, or one who does not have children in certain societies. So when Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam was called this, it hurt his ghira. So this ghira which affected Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa prior to the arrival of his descendants combined with the ghira over his descendants after they came. Likewise, Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam took his progeny and their rights very seriously, as we demonstrated earlier. Some things which I wanted to mention to make sense of the whole issue. If Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam was only being given a river in response to those who attacked Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam for having no progeny and being cut off, then this would be a superficial issue, as we gave you the example of the wife and the husband. If they are accusing Rasulullah of being cut off, and Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam is being hurt by this, the fact that Allah is revealing a verse, a whole surah in fact, for this shows Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam was hurt by this. What is he hurt by? The accusation and the insults of him being childless and fruitless and cut off. So how does Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala respond to this? Does Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala give him something, only a river? Because we accept and we know that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given a river to Rasulullah called Kawthar. We are not denying that this is a part of this verse. But if we were to remove the progeny, what sense does that make? Because if Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam would turn around and say to those people, those kuffar who were accusing him and taunting him, that look, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gave me a river, they would say, what we said about you still stands. You are still abtar. It's like the example of two siblings. If they began fighting in front of their parents, one sibling, let's say his name is Yusuf, accuses his brother Samir of having a bad character, an ugly character. One parent comes and says, no, you, O Yusuf, you have a bad character, not Samir. If he said this, then this would make sense, because he's dealing with the issue and dealing with the insecurity and dealing with the part that hurt it, the son, Samir. But if they come along and say, Yusuf, you are ugly, with no reference to what Yusuf said about Samir, and that Samir, you can go to the park. Samir can turn around and say to Yusuf, I'm going to the park. He would say, how does that change what I said about you? This situation applies here. The fact that Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam is being said to Allah, being told by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that your enemy is the one who is cut off, shows that it must include the progeny. Some other points. Now, because we spoke about fa'al, and this wasn't this verb form of fa'ala, which implies multitude, excessive multitude, people shouldn't be surprised when they see the number of the Sayyids increasing, or express doubts, or cause fitna by saying, oh, how can there be so many Sayyids in the world? Oh, look, over here there's so many, over here there's so many, this doesn't make sense, when it's the promise of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and Allah's using fa'al, using the verb form, which expresses multitude, excessive multitude, then why does it surprise anybody? If somebody, out of hatred of Sayyids, and you know where I'm going, out of the hatred of Sayyids, or for any reason, thinks he can kill the Sayyids, oppress the Sayyids, and this will limit the number or decrease them in any way, then the Kawthar of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wa alihi will continue regardless. Finally, before I leave, I want to give you an example. This in Talibi genealogy, in the descendants of Abu Talib alayhi salam, there are three main branches, three main families, or three main arha. Arha refers to tribes, families, or subcategories, and they are determined by their number or their multitude. The first of these arha is Banu Musa al-Jun, the son of Abdullah al-Mahad, the son of al-Hasan al-Muthanna, the son of Imam Hassan alayhi salam. Regardless of the intent that the Abbasids showed in that time to persecute them, to hunt them down, to slaughter them. Take the incidents of Fakh, the Battle of Fakh, for example. The descendants of Musa al-Jun and this Hassani line are still considered the arha of the descendants of Abu Talib alayhi salam. The second of the arha are the descendants of Musa ibn Ja'far al-Kawthar alayhi salam. The same Imam who was taken from prison to prison, chained, tortured through various means, put in prisons where he couldn't tell the difference between light and day. That same Imam today, the Musawiya, are his descendants, and they're easy to find if you look for them. Very famous personalities. Look around, look for the Musawi Sayyids and you will find them. This is regardless of the fact that the Abbasids considered Imam Musa al-Kadhim alayhi salam weak and oppressed him the way they did. And the third of the arha are the descendants of Ja'far ibn Ibrahim ibn Muhammad ibn Ali al-Zainabi, the son of Sayyidah Zainab Salamullahi alayha. Sayyidah Zainab Salamullahi alayha, the same Sayyidah who was taken from city to city in chains and tortured with the whip, with stones, with boiling water, who the community attempted to mock. The same Sayyidah Zainab Salamullahi alayha, through her son, who is very understudied, who we will discuss in a future episode, inshallah, Ali al-Zainabi. His descendants are considered, particularly through his great-grandson Ja'far, are considered one of the Arha of Banu Hashim, particularly the descendants of Abu Talib alayhi salam, the Arha of Abu Talib alayhi salam. We hope you will join us in the next episodes for more information on the Sayyids. Wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.